Coming up at the 20-minute mark, we're going to open the phones up. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. I specifically want to get into the clueless patsy set up by the FBI and Christmas tree bombing plot. Kurt Nimmo. I want to get into the next debt crisis may start in Washington. Tony Blair is now saying some news on that front. Later in the hour, I want to get into this key report that I watched with horror yesterday in a hotel room in East Texas while I was visiting family, where they're telling us that Warren Buffett, Bill and Melinda Gates, Ted Turner just love us, and they want to give billions of dollars to help us and our families. Of course, when you actually study what they're doing, it's a nightmare, and it ties into the austerity. The whole thing was we got to raise taxes on the rich. Meanwhile, the mega rich are already offshore, and their money's tax-free. I mean, it's such a scam. I mean, it's so sick to watch them. But that's why ABC News and others have almost no credibility. I mean, even with the brain dead out there. So that is coming up. I want to get your take on just the quickening that's happening with the North Korea situation, with the Iran situation, with WikiLeaks. I've got this really exciting TSA news that we're also going to be covering. Very exciting things on that front. And we'll cover that as soon as we come back in the next segment. But right now, let's get into this. This is from Infowars.com. And we'll actually put this article on screen and show you the patsy. Now, the government will lie so completely, we don't even know if this is true. Remember Hatari militia? Turned out the feds were leading the group and set them up, and they weren't planning anything violent. You know, one of the members said, someday, if this keeps happening, we'll have to, defend ourselves from the New World Order. But with this guy, it's the same story that we've seen a million times. If we want to be technical, hundreds of times. 1993, FBI cooks the bomb, trains the drivers, lets the bombing go forward. They literally found two guys on welfare who were almost retarded, according to their welfare department records. I mean, literally, the FBI had to teach them how to drive the car. And they let the bombing go forward. And that came out CBS News and New York Times. You get Major Hassan at Fort Hood. He's protected. There's a drill. He's talking to Anwar al-Awlaki for 2 years. Awlaki's hanging out at the Pentagon protected. Awlaki's running the shoe bomber. Al-Qaeda gives him the shoes, but no detonator. You don't light plastic explosives. Same thing with the Times Square. Same thing with all of them. With the underwear bomber. Drugged out, witnesses said, got on the plane with no passport. State Department admits an unnamed U.S. agency ordered him to help him get on the plane. This all came out. So they got drugged out idiots, lunatics, Muslim extremists. The government brings them in here as fast as they can. Whenever embassies flag them, like with the 9/11 hijackers, they're ordered, let them in. That's their cover. They're really U.S. government agents. That's mainstream news. I mean, this is all hiding in plain view. So you got pure patsies that think they're working for the government that get set up, like 7/7 and 9/11. You get other cases where they're drugged out mental patients they get on planes. You got other cases like the first World Trade Center bombing, 93, and this situation with the Christmas tree bomber, where they go out and they find just completely out of their mind lunatic America haters. Okay? And what's the government do? They got giant programs just to bring these people in as fast as they can. Clueless patsy set up by FBI and Christmas Day tree bombing plot. Kurt Nimmo, Infowars.com. They not only hate us and our freedom, but also our Christmas trees. Or at least that's what the FBI and cops in Oregon would have you believe. The FBI thwarted an attempted terrorist bombing in Portland, a Pioneer Courthouse Square before the city's annual tree lighting Friday night, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Oregon. And I will hand it to the U.S. Attorney's Office. At least they just found a lunatic to justify their existence. And didn't actually cook a real bomb and then let him blow it up. Now, this could have been because other cops found out about it. That happens a lot, and then they go ahead and call it off. But because a lot of the time, they go ahead and blow stuff up. But at least the cops didn't commit the full crime of actually bombing something. Cooking this guy a real bomb. Stay there. We're going to come right back. I mean, it's every month we hear about this in Chicago, in D.C. I mean, they go out and find these lunatics. Deport these people. Continuing, clueless patsy set up by FBI and Christmas tree bombing plot, Infowars.com. And as I said before the break, it's the same thing over and over again. Anwar al-Awlaki's running the shoe bomber with no detonator. Al-Qaeda can pull off these incredibly devastating attacks, but then doesn't know to put a detonator in plastic explosive. You cannot light plastic explosive and make it detonate. They know that. A totally drugged out, low-grade moron. 1993, guys on welfare, close to mentally retarded, that came out in the news. FBI cooks the bomb, trains the driver. Major Hassan, in contact with Anwar al-Awlaki, who we know works for elements of the Pentagon, hanging out secretly at the Pentagon. He's talking to Hassan, telling him what to do for 2 years, left alone, the government knows. Underwear bomber, same story, same people. Pentagon, CIA, help him get on the plane. State Department admits it. Now, this guy, for months, he thinks he's emailing training camps. He's really talking to the FBI. They come, they help him, they build it. I mean, as soon as he said, let's blow stuff up, boom, arrest him right there, deport him. No. No. No, they don't do that. They help him with his plan to bomb the Christmas tree and then bust him minutes before the tree lighting. This 19-year-old Somali-born U.S. citizen had a little help from the FBI. The arrest was the culmination of a long-term undercover operation during which he had been monitored for months as his alleged bomb plot developed. In a repeat of the now familiar pattern, the FBI told him they were building the bomb. They went so far as to travel to a remote spot in Lincoln County, Oregon, where a bomb concealed in a backpack was detonated as a trial run for the upcoming Christmas tree attack. That way they can show the bomb being detonated on the news later and scare you. The FBI eagerly assisted their clueless Mark when he decided to shoot a video explaining his half-witted act. The half-wit and the FBI operative agreed to meet in Portland, where he allegedly told the FBI operative that he had written articles that were published in the Jihad Recollections, an online magazine that advocated holy war against American infidels and assorted Christmas revelers. His mentally disturbed fantasy, fueled by the FBI's, is reminiscent of the Christmas Day non-bombing attributed to Nigerian Abdullah Muttalib, who was, it was said, planned to take down an airliner over Detroit in spectacular fashion by lighting his underwear. According to the FBI affidavit, the underwear bomber absurd bomb plot began back in August of '09. It goes through the same story of him being protected by the U.S. government. Ladies and gentlemen, I would never do this, but hypothetically, any of us could go out with $10,000, get to know a local schizophrenic, mentally ill person, and I'll guarantee you, you buy them enough drugs, enough whiskey, enough liquor, you can get them to walk into a police station and detonate a bomb. Guaranteed. I could march out of this door right now, and in a month, I guarantee you, I could find a lunatic on the streets of Austin. There's thousands of them, because they take care of the homeless here and invite them here, and so mentally ill from all over the country, most of them are completely out of their gourd, are all over the streets, walking around like zombies, nobody really helping them, nobody getting them off the drugs. I guarantee you, anyone could do this, and it's always the same. Remember back in 2006, there was going to be a jihad of black Muslims that were going to wage war nationwide and overthrow the government? And it turned out they weren't even Muslims. They were Christian Rastafarian street kids, the oldest being 18, who were completely stoned out of their mind on marijuana and other drugs. The government, over 2 years, got them a warehouse, said, I'll give you more money and drugs if you wear a uniform. Say you're Muslims, but we're Christians. Say you are. I'll give you another 40 grand if you go videotape the Miami FBI office. All totaled, it was over $100,000 they gave this group of street youth. They weren't even Muslims. They told them, we'll give you more money. Say you're Muslims. What, a month and a half ago, it was all over mainstream news that the FBI set up Muslims in D.C., went out and found them, went out and created the group, tried to get them to blow up subways. So they can sit up there on the news and say, we've got terrorists everywhere, we've got to have naked body scanners. We've got to have internal checkpoints but leave the borders wide open. We've got to continue all these wars. I can't tell you how many times in the last 17 years of being a political activist, 15 years on air, that we'd be at a pro-Second Amendment rally. We'd be at a land rights rally. We'd be trying to help some veteran having their house taken. We'd all be out there polite at a demonstration, and plainclothes cops would walk over and go, hey, Alex, you want to blow something up? You want to shoot somebody? And if I would have just shot my mouth off and said, yeah, we ought to do something sometime, which I didn't, I said, no, I'm nonviolent, I would have been clapped in irons right there. Or if I'd have played along, they would have done. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you could go to 20 bars in the next week and find drunks who, if you go to the bar and talk about killing people, are going to agree with you. You could do it every night. You could go anywhere you wanted. I mean, how many people do you know? You know, we ought to just start stringing them all up. We ought to just line them up and firing squad this government. Boom, you're going to prison. And it's not because you're a real threat. It's because they want to create this illusion that there's this giant threat going on to sell this tyranny. And let me tell you, when they train your local police, when they train your local citizen squads, your tattletale spy squads, when they train the InfraGard, when they train all these groups, and this is on record, in their training manuals that are public, they'll invite, in cases I've seen in the farming community, I've seen this in Nebraska, Texas, you name it, and the training manuals. I've seen the videos shot at these events. They invite them in, and it's a 2-day event at a hotel. Sometimes the people even pay themselves to be there. Sometimes the government pays, or a local group sponsors it. You got the local farmers there, or in the cities, you know, it's the local community leaders. And they show them a 2-minute video of Al-Qaeda training. For the next 2 days, it's all, watch your neighbor. Are they spanking their child? Do you smell marijuana? Does your neighbor have guns that are illegal? So, see, they get you to the meeting. Okay, we're here to fight Al-Qaeda. Now, let's move on to disgruntled veterans and all the training of the Boy Scouts, Explorer Group, New York Times, training to take on disgruntled veterans, training to kill them. You're like, well, those kids are 14. Well, that story was 2 years ago. Now they're 16. They're going to be 18 soon. The Hitler, you know, youth were 12, 13 out there holding off Russian tanks. You better take this serious. They want them because they're young and dumb. I mean, we know what this is. And so you better know, and the police know this. They're being trained to take on disgruntled vets, conservatives, libertarians. Now, that's treason. This government is running the terrorist and protecting people like this lunatic trying to blow up the Christmas tree. Now, let's get to some good news here for people. Drudge Report has top linked to us all last week, all over the weekend, our story about women now who have, I don't want to get graphic, but women who are having that time of the month and have pads or tampons. When the scanner sees them, they feel them. I mean, that's mainstream news. He linked to our article on that linked to other mainstream articles. They are now asking women, what is that? And the woman goes, are you joking? And one sexual assault victim, they were grabbing on it. They're like, what is that? I mean, what do you think it is, buddy? This is the humiliation. The good news is, though, there has been a total implosion of their system. We first started getting reports of this on Tuesday and Wednesday, that people flying all over said that the machines aren't on, they're not doing pat-downs. It's like going back 10 years ago, everybody's just going through the metal detectors. What does that illustrate? It's not a real terror threat. They knew people were going to protest and bring it to a halt and show the power of the people, so they said, we're not going to fight. Sun Tzu, you know, art of war. If you're outnumbered, if you're going to lose, strategic withdrawal. Strategic retreat. That's what they did, a strategic retreat. Rob Dew, Aaron Dykes were out interviewing Russell Means for an upcoming eugenics film in the Dakotas. They had to fly back out of Denver. Same place Michelle and her daughters got groped by the TSA. All the machines off. In fact, I may get them in here in the last segment to tell the story for you, but the point is turned off. Then major newspapers, we've got them all linked in this article, a whole bunch of papers called and confirmed that they turned off almost all the machines nationwide. And it's not just PrisonPlanet.com that pointed this out today. Also, Politico did. I told Watson Friday to write this story on Monday, and he did. Over the weekend, Politico, New York Times, they concurred. The Drudge Report was the main catalyst, DrudgeReport.com, for this. And the headline is, but we were the blasting cap in the cartridge. The Drudge Report was the powder and the round, and the American people were the barrel that fired this salvo into the globalists in the info war.